Hello, hello. Oh. Hello, everybody.
So is everything working this time?
I think I'm going to go and double check. So I'll let you intro while I see if we are good to go.
All right. Yeah, last time we did this thing that looked like an accident where we played an old audio over a new video, but that was on purpose.
Yeah, it was on
Yeah.
purpose.
Yes, we're just gonna keep doing that. So it's just keep people on their toes. And we should have called this our strange hair episode. I just finished cutting my hair, and I like to cut my hair so that if I'm like walking down the road or something, someone can see me from really far and be like, "That guy cuts his own hair. Clearly cuts his own hair." So that's my goal. And yeah, I cut my own hair. It saves like $6 every 5 months.
He keeps trying to convince me to let him cut my hair, and it ain't happening.
It just keeps the wig. I don't get it.
Okay, so the audio is working. Everything's good. Yep.
Okay, so now we got to figure out what to talk about. Okay, what does that say on the bottom? How wives can wake up their husbands. Okay.
Husbands.
Okay, I guess we could talk about that.
How I can wake up this guy.
Snoozy. Okay, so yeah, that's kind of actually what we tried to talk about for like an hour and 20 minutes last Monday.
Yeah.
And all you saw was our lips moving. So, and then it was a week to forget about everything we talked about. So we'll try again.
We're gonna try again. I think we'll be good.
Yeah, it's basically going to be, I guess last week what you heard again for the second or third week in a row was, what we need right now to kind of save the world is restoring the family, and that's not gonna happen until men wake up and come out of their basements. It's like they've all, been in a cave for 3 days or 3 time periods, and now it's time to kind of climb out and take their place as men, and what that means, and how to go about that, and that we can't even move forward. You can't move forward in a marriage if you're married to a child, or if you're not married to a man. That's marriage is man and wife.
Yeah.
And a lot of men aren't men right now. They're just they're scared children in the bodies of men, but that's not gonna have a good outcome. So we're good.
Yeah, we're good. Everything's good.
Yeah, and so that's why I'm, when the whole thing kind of switched over and I came on, it's because the world's coming to a place where men are needed and men are missing, and those two facts are gonna cause the downfall of, if not one society, all of them, because I don't think men are really awake anywhere in the world right now, and we've all kind of forgotten what just used to be kind of reality, that men should lead the household because they're the covering, because they're the tip of the spear, they're what defends things. It's it's the hard outer shell of something precious and vulnerable, kind of like an egg. The shell on the egg is the masculine part of the egg, but it's like, if you were to ask what's the most important of an egg, is it the yolk or the shell? It's like, yes. If you have one without the other, you're dead. That egg cannot produce life. It's an empty shell, or it's a cracked egg. So, you need both of these halves of a relationship, which is, the husband and wife relationship is kind of a model of reality itself. It's the meeting of masculine and feminine to produce, to create, just in general. That's how anything creates. That's how a company creates products. You get the masculine and the feminine, which doesn't necessarily mean male and female. Masculine and feminine are like positive and negative. It's this kind of opposing forces that are the same and opposite. And so, it's blows my mind to have to talk about things like if there's a difference between male and female. That's an actual issue in the world these days,
Mm-hmm.
and people are taking not different sides to the answer.
Yeah.
It's yes, there's a difference between male and female, as much difference as there is between masculine and feminine. And then they'll use that same argument saying, well, but there's feminine men and masculine women, as though because you're a masculine woman, you're a man, or because you're a feminine man, you're a woman. It's just not how it works. Um, Men are men, women are women.
Yeah.
I hate to break it to y'all. I hate to be a revolutionary these days and say something like men are men and women are women.
Women are women, yeah.
Yeah, the biggest problem is we've just forgotten how to be those things. And
Yeah.
last week I had talked about how children are born knowing these things, and we're taught to think that that's not true, that children don't have any boundaries. They're just these free spirits. And it's like, you haven't been around children. All children do are walk around pointing out reality.
Mm-hmm.
And, they'll say, you'll be walking down the street. I mean, that's why there was this show I mentioned last week, how there was what's that show? Kids say the darndest things.
Mm-hmm.
We've always known that. And what they mean by darndest things is the truth. It's kids go around and they just blurt out the truth. And sometimes it's like offensive, it's like, you got to cover their mouths. It's, why is that man so tall? Or, why is that skinny guy's nose so big? It's like, and then as grown-ups, we get hurt and offended, and we have to discipline the kids, which you do. You have to mold the children to learn to control, so that they can fit into a society and not just be in a constant state of Tourette's, which children are. They can't help it.
Yeah.
And
Darren, you shared a story last week of our niece.
mm-hmm. Yeah, my little niece. She was, how old was she? Like
she was
3, 4?
4 then, I think, when that happened.
Yeah, 4 years old, and so far not unindoctrinated, unmolded to just be able to point out truth in the world. And she wasn't forced to choose a gender yet. She just lived in reality. And so that's how they operate. That's how kids operate. And it reminds me of how, the Bible says to be as, children be like children in our faith, which means point out the truth. The truth. But anyway, so my niece, we had spent, plenty of time together. She'd come over before. We had gone over to their house many times. And the last time, before we moved back down here, we spent the whole weekend together, and we took them around town and did all this stuff. We had a blast. And as they were leaving, everything's packed up and they're already out the door. She comes running back in up to me, and I was like, wow, I didn't realize, that we were that close. I thought she was going to give me one last big hug. I was like, man, that's amazing. And so I've been down to give her a hug, and she doesn't hug me. She just runs up and grabs my nose and goes, honk, honk. And and my brother, he was like, Penelope, it's like, I don't care. It's like, that's the truth. I got a great big schnoz. I'm okay with that. I'm too tall for my weight. It's like, these are facts. These are facts in the world. And I think last time I also mentioned that, the Bible's stance on being offended by truth is that you're stupid. That if you are offended, you're stupid. In fact, it says, the exact phrase is, the stupid one is quick to offense. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of us can kind of see how that's happening, and that there's this really concerted effort to control what is offensive, or what's allowed to be said. How do you put that? Like that, to weaponize, the tools of offense, or to weaponize that reaction. And it's, if I get offended, then you should be in jail, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Which, that sounds kind of crazy, but more and more people are starting to realize that that's literally what's happening in certain places, like the UK, which is just crazy because America is kind of the child of the UK, and there's thousands of people that have been ticketed or put in prison for saying offensive things, which, true or not, you can't make offensive things legal or illegal. It's just how it is. And that's why, you know, this all starts from the family. When you disintegrate the family, within a family, we say offensive things to each other all the time. And most of the time, it's just the truth. If she points out that I'm being lazy or too mean or, anything, what's the classic? I thought you were going to take the trash out. If that offends me, well, it's just the truth. You need to take the trash out.
Well, sometimes I'll go, what's that smell? Like,
Yeah.
I think there's something bad in the
Yeah,
trash.
yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Well, it actually kind of works all the time, and that's what I'm talking about, the meaning of the masculine and the feminine. And we talked a lot about this last time, which, if there was a good lip reader out there, I hope y'all enjoyed the show. But we talked about how, the difference between masculine and feminine kind of communication. And it's men do, and that's how men manage. That's why men are born to be managers. It's because we point at what needs to be done and say, do this, do this, do that. And that's just what managing does. The feminine, and a woman could be a masculine manager. It doesn't make them a man. Let's keep that in mind. But generally, how women kind of get things done is by opening up the space for it to be done, and not necessarily directing the man to do it, because directing is a masculine form of communication. So it's the feminine form is, like she said, it's, do you smell something? And then I almost feel like it's my idea that I should take the trash out. When it's like, but that's just how it's always been. That's, these ancient tropes of, a woman in a tower guarded by a dragon. Nobody's telling, there's not even, the woman's not holding up a sign saying, rescue me. It's just, the impetus is it's implied. It's you. And then the man goes and kills the dragon to rescue the woman. That's at its base form, and it's, the feminine is what's not said. And, the space of the question, and last time we talked about a lot of feminine symbolism in the Bible, and how starting from the earth as feminine down to Noah's Ark is feminine, the Ark of the Covenant is feminine, and it's these layers. It's the feminine layers with the glory, the masculine inside. And again, it's the shell and the egg, the shell and the yolk. It's masculine out and feminine coming together. And so in a marriage, how that can work, and well, I guess we'll talk about the scripture first. So,
oh yeah.
Actually, we'll do a couple. So you had a scripture in mind?
Yes. For the unbelieving husband is sanctified by the wife, and the unbelieving wife is sanctified by the husband. Otherwise, your children would be unclean, but now they are holy. And that is 1 Corinthians 7:14.
Yeah, so if we think about that, how can that actually play itself out? Well, in a way, that's what happened to us. And last time I talked about how, all throughout the progression, the movement of Christianity into different nations, and how Christendom had spread, whether you believe in, Catholicism, Orthodoxy, Protestant, whatever, the way it's always moved its territory, like its physical territory, and taken over, if you will, and created a kingdom, it's always been through the women. Always. The church is always carried through the women. It's not planned that way. It's just how it works out. It's always the praying mothers that, and then there's this kind of secret thing that happens behind the scenes where the mother kind of creates the space, or the wife creates the space to men to pick it up and be the spear. It's like the handle and the spear. It's the bow and arrow and the arrow. And we talked about that last time, how the arrow is obviously the masculine part of the bow and arrow. And within each part of these pieces, there's, within the arrow, there's feminine pieces. The feathers and the staff can be feminine to the piercing part of the arrow. But it's like saying, what's more important, the arrow or the bow? It's like, you could use both to cause damage, to hit something with or stab something with, but you put them together, and that's how you have a direction. Mm-hmm. And the arrow's great. The arrow's been talked about symbolically in the Bible, in all kinds of places. Even the word truth. How I've talked about truth, especially on the radio show we were doing. Mm-hmm. How important truth is, and to not lie, and how truth just means straight. How you true a tire, like a bicycle tire, is to make it it's wobbly and to make it straight. If an arrow flies true, it means it flies straight. And so all these things kind of go together. We can dive deeper into truth and its symbolism, and how to use truth in a marriage without pulling the marriage apart, because that can happen if you're not smart about it. If you're not prayerful about it. And okay, so to get a little bit more in detail, what a wife can do, if you are a godly woman, and you listen to the show, you read your Bible, you go to church, all these things, and you want goodness to return to the earth. And it's, what do? I keep telling my husband this, or I keep telling him that, this and that, and it just doesn't work. All he does is play video games, or all he does is work, and he comes home tired, and he wants a beer, and just silence, and to go to sleep and go back to work. Well, as we go on, what my point here is to talk to the men and wake them up from that lifestyle, because I've been there. I've been in these kind of seasons of I'm stuck on a video game. Or I've been so beat up at work, I can't do anything else. I'm not going to think about reading a Bible. I'm not going to pray. I don't have time to pray. My back is too sore to pray right now. Or the bills are attacking so much that I just can't pray, which is ridiculous. We know that all those things are because you're not praying. That's, kind of what we realized is every problem we were having was because we were taking on the role of God ourselves. And whatever problem we had, I got to fix this before I can even think about going to church or something. Yeah. Well, then you're never going to catch up. The right way will never catch up to you, because the right way is to not be God. So you got to stop being God.
Yeah.
So, this role of a wife as a helper to men, it's as important as, like we said, the staff on an arrow is almost useless to the tip of the arrow if it's made out of glass. It's, if you shoot the arrow and it hits the target, but it can't be driven in because it's too weak, or it's built for something else. Well, for Christian women, to keep in mind, just like I said, throughout all these ages, how is it that a woman was always kind of the vessel that carried the church into the new land? What is it that the woman did? Is it, did she put on this suit of armor and go out with a sword and, kill the barbarians and then plant the church with her bare hands? And no, men did that, but the women created the space for this to happen. And to put it bluntly, it's through prayer. That's how women wake their men up, is through prayer. Yeah. And this is what happened with us, and I didn't even know it until I was already, picking up my mantle as a man. Yeah. Then we got to talking about how she'd just been praying, and last time you talked about.
Yeah, I prayed. We talked about Darren's mentor named Vincent. Vincent, if you're watching this, we love you and miss you. But there's a part of me that thinks Vincent may not be watching here on earth, because I am almost positive that guy was a literal angel brought to us for a moment, for a season, because we were in Portland, Oregon, and we had a little bit of a rough time. We had some rocky moments, and we were both battling in our own faith in different ways. But I knew Darren needed a mentor. And how does a wife tell a husband that? Like, you need to find a Christian mentor. Like, you can't do that,
It's masculizing the problem to point it out like that.
Yeah. And so I prayed. Every day. I prayed for Vincent to come into Darren's life. And when I finally got to meet Vincent because he ended up working for Darren at the job he had in Portland. And Darren would tell me about Vincent and tell me stories, and I knew that God had answered prayers.
Yeah, and it's strange how that works. I mean, I just hired a guy that I thought was going to work hard,
Mm-hmm.
and he did. Man, that guy blew us all away. But he was an older man, and he came in and we would just work side by side, and he was as far as an actual person I've met in real life, not just seen on or read about or something. He was a perfect example, as as perfect an example as you can get on earth anyway, of a good godly man,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't know if I had ever met before. I've met a whole bunch of pastors. I've met a whole bunch of you know churchgoers or whatever you want to call people. We're all just imperfect. It's nothing
Yeah.
against them. That everybody's doing the best they can.
Mm-hmm.
And then I met this man who just walked the walk. He was a doer of the word and
Yeah.
not a speaker of the word. Which is what we're supposed to be. Which is why I'm doing this as out of character as this kind of is for me. I don't do this stuff. I don't like this stuff. I hate cameras. But I know it's what I'm supposed to do. It's our responsibility.
Yeah.
And when it comes down to it, if you're a man and you're a Christian man, and you're not doing things that are uncomfortable to do what you're supposed to do, then you're not there yet.
Yeah, build the kingdom. We're supposed to be building the kingdom. And, sometimes it's on a camera and sometimes it's not, but it is always speaking the gospel to people. It's
Mm-hmm.
always speaking truth. And I think that's what Vincent did the most for us is he incorporated God in everything. I mean, you couldn't sit down and eat a taco with the guy or
Yeah,
you were learning.
We had tacos with
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and when I first met Vincent, there was nothing I could do but thank him and say, you were a prayer. You were literally a prayer.
He knew he was, which is
for a wife.
Weird.
Yeah.
He knew he was.
Yeah.
Now, he would say, yeah, we'd probably do a whole episode on this man.
We could. He was amazing.
Yeah, it was interesting because, and he gives me strength to do this, which I hate to do. I really do. But he'd go in there, and it was a job he didn't need to have. He would say it all the time, but he knew that he had to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And this is Portland, Oregon. This is downtown Portland, Oregon.
Yeah.
And I'd say probably a good 70% of everybody that worked there was, if not an open atheist, that we were all down that road, including myself. And and you would think that someone coming in there, and every time somebody asked a question or just brought up an issue, like, oh my God, me and my wife are having this problem, or I got in trouble at work, or I messed this up. The first thing he would say is just give it to God. Mm-hmm. To all these atheists. And the craziest thing, you think that would start problems. You think that would, you'd have some like butting heads there. Instead, what happened is that building, which was so dark, because it was such a hard job for everybody involved, all of our backs were breaking. And if anybody from there is listening to this, you know what I mean. I still have injuries from this place. And
Tanya's probably watching. Hi, Tanya.
Yeah, Tanya knows. That was a rough job. And you probably remember, you were there with Vincent. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was just this guy that just did it. He just walked the walk. Mm-hmm. That was it. And it wasn't complicated. In fact, it was so simple that it was like, how do you do that? It's like asking, how do you float? How do you tell somebody how to float, how to get in water and float? You can kind of do it, but until you do it, or riding a bike, you could take 4 years of, Harvard, Yale level college on how to ride a bike, and it will not teach you how to ride a bike. Mm-hmm. You won't be able to get on and ride the bike. In fact, it's not until you do it that you understand how to do it.
Yeah.
No matter how much training you have. And that's what it's like to walk in truth, to be on the narrow path, to be doers of the word. All these phrases, it's all the same thing. It's all different phrases of the same thing in the middle. And this man just did it. And mm-hmm. everybody there, every debauched atheist that was there, suddenly their lives were brightened. And people were walking into work like singing. And it was happiness everywhere from this one angel.
Yeah, I'm positive he was an angel. And
Yeah. Yeah.
And I truly believe in my heart of hearts he was sent there
Mm-hmm.
for Darren. But do you see how God works? God also allowed him to touch other people's lives, and he set the way for Darren, because after that Darren was able to continue the work that Vincent started, and he was able to
Yeah,
help help the men there, and just kind of carry it on a little bit more, So,
Yeah.
so wives, your prayers
Yeah.
matter, and they can make a big difference in not just your husband's lives, but in the lives of other people.
When I forget, man, who said it? It may have been Saint Maximus. I can't remember, but the quote went something like, if one man acquires a spirit of peace, it will save 1,000 of those
Mm-hmm.
around him. And to see, like, these people are so rare, it's hard to, people may not get it, but every now and then, if you come across one of these people that are just of God, and there's no denomination, and I'm not saying that we all have to be without a denomination. It doesn't matter. You could be anywhere on earth, and if it's one of these true apostles of God, the light will just radiate,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll spread, and we'll all want to be like that person.
Yeah.
And in a way, it's not so much, to kind of pull it back down to maybe some logical, down to earth thinking, how Chrissy opened that space. She made the space for Vincent to not just show up, but to have an effect. God, or you can say random chance, it doesn't matter, sent this angel to all of us in that warehouse. And if you had seen how it was before, you knew we needed one. It was really bad in there. It was just dark, and we would all try our best to keep it uplifted. And then this man shows up and just changed people's lives. I know he did. And I know if I change one person, if I help one person, it'll be as a direct line through this man. But like I was saying, to bring it back to a more logical way of how did Chrissy make that possible in a way? How does the feminine prayerful space make this possible? Well, it's not so much, even if it is, that Chrissy legitimately prayed for this man to show up. Even if you take that kind of miraculous aspect out of it, and just down to, Chrissy changing the way she operates, she basically took it on herself to be a prayerful wife. And what that does is it starts from within her, and it kind of opens up the space outside of her, and before you know it, that kind of prayerful hope, or what she wills, it fills the entire house. It filled our apartment, to where I lived in it then, because we're there together. And so it's the same way if she suddenly became a hardcore punk rocker, and you can imagine how gnarly that mohawk would be with her hair, because it's like 6 feet long. Well, if she opened that space, right? If it started in her heart, she's listening to Rancid, or all these bands. I used to be a punk.
I don't know who that is.
She starts listening to all these bands, and Tim Armstrong's in her heart now, and it's just Operation Ivy. I catch her and she's just jamming out, and all of a sudden, she has art on the wall and she's using phrases. She's before you know it, like I will be living in this space that she created, which is that of punk rock, which we might want to try that out someday. That'd be awesome. Who knows? But I do know that what happened is she did that with prayer, which created a space for me to take up the masculine role in, which is the doing role. It's the same as the question and the answer. The answer is masculine. The question is feminine. And if women can understand how powerful it is to own the question, which is, I think, a lot of society has done. I think Hollywood knows what they're doing. I think there's smart people out there that know how these archetypal spiritual roles work, and that they know that if they take over the question, that they can then guide the answer.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening.
Yeah.
Men are taking up these crazy roles, and I think at the top it could be men or women. It doesn't matter. But this gets into the abortion debate. They've managed to manipulate the question.
Yeah.
The two questions. Who owns the body, and whether or not there's a child in there. It's like these are questions. They're not answers. And when you divide the question in half, you get good almost fighting itself. And it's like, yeah, those are both true. Women should have agency, but they should not be choosing abortion. I agree. We should not. You cannot force morality, which is why what's it called? It almost sounds like abortion. When there was no alcohol allowed. What were those years called?
Dry.
The dry counties, but it had to do with the words on the tip of my tongue. You know what I'm talking about.
You want me to look it up? I have Google right here.
Sure. It's going to drive me nuts. It's going to drive me nuts. Anyway, when alcohol was outlawed, it did not stop the drinking of alcohol. It just outlawed a morality, an immorality. And that doesn't work. All it does is drive the immorality into the shadows, and that's not how you combat. My personal stance on abortion, which is what I'm trying to do, is if it's like people don't realize that you can't have an abortion without a man to plant the seed. It's like we need to have this whole discussion on the birds and the bees. It just blows my mind. Men, if you don't, and I mean, how many conservative politicians have been caught having their mistresses having abortions, and their whole platform is anti-abortion. It's like, that's the problem. Men, if we're not making the babies to abort, then abortion evaporates.
Yeah.
It's just off the table.
Yeah.
It's like, if there's juggling accidents because people keep juggling bowling balls, it's like, what if we just stop juggling bowling balls? Then they won't hit your head anymore. It's that simple.
Yeah.
And so, not to get off that subject, we have to put an end to this manipulation of the feminine. And what's being done in the world is that feminine has been eradicated, which is why every new hero in movies is a woman doing masculine things. It's not the women picking up the role as the owners of that space, the owners of that question. They've, for some reason, taken up the masculine role, and then the feminine's just gone completely. The men are just ancillary, and the women are men. There is no longer a space for that most powerful thing, the question, the space, the chaotic, the matter. The matter of which things are made out of. Matter as in mother, material. It's the earth. That is important, and women need to take that back because you own it.
Yeah.
And then once you realize that you own it, all you stay-at-home moms, all of you hardworking women, once you realize that you own that space of the question, of the frame, then you can decide what you want to do with it. Yeah. And that's where the appeal goes out to good, godly women. Because when you realize you have that power of prayer, that power of opening the space, then you've made the staff on the arrow unbreakable. And then I can come in and teach the arrow point to also be unbreakable. Yeah. Because again, an arrow with the glass staff is almost as useless as a steel shaft with a glass arrowhead. It's like you can cause some damage, but it's just going to break.
Yeah.
Under the impact of pressure, it's just going to break. And a lot of men I know, they broke a long time ago. They're done. They're kind of cooked. They're just almost waiting for death. I don't know what they're waiting for, but they're asleep. They've fully submitted. They fully have given up their blessed role as the masculine, as the doers, as the agent of action in the world. They've just surrendered it.
Yeah.
It's as though they've confronted this dragon, and they're supposed to be the knight, and they just got scared. They were defeated.
Yeah. Well, I think if men and women would just, and this is unpopular to say, but we have a place. We have a place in our homes, in our families, and if we would stick to our roles, and I know that's really unpopular to say in this day and age, but it's true. I don't believe in the feminist movement. I just don't. I think it's a
really
lie.
A masculine movement. It's turning the feminine masculine.
Yeah, I think it's a lie from the enemy.
Masculinism.
I think it's a way to pervert our roles as feminine and masculine. Too many women are leading their homes. And for some reason, we're told that that's bad. But as Darren's explaining here, we have our role and we are still leaders. We are still leading. We're setting that space and praying and seeking God and inviting God into our home. We're the ones mostly that are inviting Jehovah into our homes. And
Christ to guide us.
Yes. And when we as wives, as women, we don't nag our husbands to church. We don't nag them to follow God. I mean, I worked at a church and I didn't nag Darren to go to that church. Our role is to not nag them to be Christ followers. What we do is we pray, we open that space, we invite Jehovah into our home. And when we're inviting, there's no, if you are truly inviting God, Jehovah, into your home, he is there. And the power of the presence of God, at some point, your husband can't deny that.
Well, and, there's a lot to be said about letting people suffer. And if the man is suffering right now because he's trapped in his hellish snares, at some point he will fall. He will hit rock bottom. And that's okay. It's not your right to take someone's suffering away if they want to suffer. Let them suffer. At some point, though, they will want to come out of their suffering, and they need a hard surface. They need a rock to cling on to, and that's God. That is whatever is your God. And if that space is, the punk rock music she's so into, then when I come out of it, I'm just going to become a punk rocker like her. See, it took a lot of work to get her to put that mohawk down. But she did it because I'm a man. That's my role. Tell her what to do. No. And back to if I were to say the role of a man, there's you kind of will say, well, what's that role? There's no offense there, but if I say even the words, the role of a woman, everybody feels that kind of static.
Yeah.
Kind of like What does that mean? It's the only reason is because we believed the lie.
Yeah.
And to believe a lie is to become complicit with the lie. You take part with the lie. That's why seeking the truth. That's why not closing yourself off. Even if you're, a Christian, you be open. We all know Jesus spent time with those who were fallen.
Yeah.
Because, he didn't take up Satan's offer of being king of the world, which Satan can only do if he's running the world. By the way, don't love the world. Mm-hmm. But to kind of make that space to let people fail with what they're doing and to come back out, which I hit that place. I hit a failure.
And I kind of just let him, of just left him there. I wasn't going to nag him out of it,
Well, it's simply not your role.
Yeah.
It's not your role. And to do that, to forcibly put people into what you think is their spot, which is what the law will be doing with certain things soon, is you just make it worse, which almost makes me think that that's what they want.
Yeah.
Is to cause war between people, between the masculine and feminine, instead of us coming together.
Yeah.
And, you can go on about feminine symbolism and masculine symbolism forever. We could read the Bible and just point out
it's in there.
Where's feminine, where's masculine, where's feminine, and it's just this, over and over. And so, to kind of recap, to, for women it's not so much know your role, but it's to get it back again, because you've given it away, and it was so powerful, and we've believed the lies about how it's not, and how it's something to look down on, and things like the veil, people that's been perverted to either an extreme one way or the other. We know some people that put a full body veil with a slit across the eyes, and then you put that into law. If you want to do that, fine. But if it's the law, again, you cannot enforce morality. All it does is it's like pulling back of that arrow, that bow. You're just regressing, and once you let go, they're going to fling off in the opposite direction. So to know your role because it's given to you as a gift.
Yeah.
And same with men. Know your role. It's a gift, even if it's difficult. You never get anything good that's not difficult. That's just how it is. And all the other things are kind of like going to the store and buying these desserts that are just poison.
They're good.
Taste good. It's killing you.
Yeah.
And we all know that. We all know that with junk food. Well, the same thing goes for junk morality.
Yeah.
Junk indoctrination.
Yeah, and the Bible knows, the Bible teaches us as Christians, as Christ followers, it knows the power of the woman. How many scriptures talk about the wayward woman? There's a knowledge and a wisdom in the Bible that tells us women have this power.
Yeah. Going through Proverbs, it talks about the wayward woman. It's not saying that this is bad for the woman. It's saying that woman will start corroding society by absorbing the men and ruining the men. That's that role of guiding society in a way, of opening that space. Yeah, and it's like, so women are fighting so hard for all of these rights when we already have it. Like, God's already given us a powerful gift, ladies. Mm-hmm. We don't have to carry the heavy stuff to prove that we're worthy. Mm-hmm. We don't have to be the one to lead our home because we want to feel worthy. We don't have to tell our husbands what to do because we want to be. We're already given this beautiful power from God that actually leads, and it's almost like a mystery leading. Mm-hmm. But women want to step out and be seen for that. They think they do. Well, they've been convinced that that's what they want. Yes, And if you see the actual dollar amount that's being put into convincing women that's what they want, it's in the billions. Yeah. In order to bend reality, in order to make children lie, essentially, you have to invest trillions of dollars. And every billion, every million that's put into this attempt to kind of change just natural law, God's natural law, that's what you need. It needs to be constant propaganda and billions and billions and an organized, concerted effort in order to convince women it's better to be a man. It has to be constant, repetitive, and expensive. If you take that away, and this happened, this can happen if you just send a group of men and women out into the wilderness. Women will almost immediately become women again. That's why it's natural law. If an asteroid hits, if there's a worldwide blackout, if war happens, which could happen, the natural state of being will come back real quick. You see glimpses of it happening now. Yeah. That role of the man as the strong rubber bottom of the shoe that comes in contact with the elements. Women will all of a sudden remember their role of putting men there. Kicking and screaming. Men will once again have to kind of be that outer role. It's kind of just a numbers game. That's how God operates. It's just logical. It's beautiful. It's how it should be. And the women take care of the home. In fact, it reminds me if I talk to, I won't say who it is because I haven't had his permission yet, but a young man, a couple years younger than me, kind of atheist, and he was saying, he's got a young family. He's got a young wife. He's got 2 children, and the children are like, I think 7 and 4 or something like that, 6 and 4, 6 and 3, around that age. And, he has no hierarchy above him. As far as he sees after having a family, that, it's like, the man is the covering for the woman, and then the wife is over the children. And he said that he noticed it because the children seem to have a proper place over the animals, which is true. Every time, our pets love nothing more than little kids.
Oh gosh,
They love us.
our nieces and nephews.
Nothing wakes them up like children, and
Yeah.
it's kind of this natural thing, to see kids with puppies and just having fun with their pets, and then they grow up and they kind of grow away from their pets, and the pets become, instead of their little friends with names they talk to, they become animals again. But then they have kids, and then their kids take over that role. But he was telling me, noticing this, how, he's kind of waking up to that the world has been lying to him, and that it's just obvious that, he almost said it reluctantly, that, it seems like this, that's just the way it is, that, the man covers the wife covers the children, and then so on. And he was saying how strange it felt. He almost felt, it made him almost scared to realize that he was kind of like on top of that. And like he doesn't really know what to do. Like he doesn't know, it's a lot of pressure, and it's just almost, it's too scary, like at the top of a mountain. And so, I was telling him that that's why, as Christians, we realize that order is, you're not at the top as a man. It's, you are then submissive to Christ. You, the same way a wife can put all that stress on the husband, put it all on his back as the man, and worry about the kids and the family and all that. And just, let the man handle it. Let him mess up if he messes up. But you don't mess up your spot in that hierarchy. And that's how a man is to Christ. You put it all on him, and you don't got to worry about it anymore. It's peace. It's not happiness. It's not sadness. It's not anger. It's not emotion. It's not this tossing waves of every day, you feel different. It's every day is the same, but you're at peace, and there's joy.
And he's guiding you.
Yeah.
And
that's how how Christ is to God. God takes on all that responsibility in the end. But even Christ is submissive as the woman's role, if you will, to God. And so that's that downline. And I was able to tell him this, and to tell him, kind of sit down and teach him how to pray, how to realize that every thought that goes through your head is a lie. Every thought that goes through your head is a lie, which is just logically true, because we don't know anything. We don't even know what we are. We're talking rocks.
The Bible tells us to take captive every thought. It doesn't say just the bad thoughts.
Yeah, take every thought
captive, good and bad.
Yeah, and that's when you kind of realize that, and you get out of your head, especially these days, because everybody's terrified, and we're all thinking about the future. The future. Well, the future hasn't happened yet, and the past is dead. All that's, we're with God in the present. And so in order to pray, like I said, I think in our first episode, if you just sit still and watch all these thoughts, the good ones and the bad ones, and just realize that, well, that can't be true because I'm not psychic. That can't be true because I'm not psychic. That doesn't matter because it's in the past, and so today's new and doesn't matter. I can do something different now. And to just be with God in the present. God is in the present.
He's right here with us in the present. His presence are here in the present. Yeah.
And that's how nature operates. That's why it's the natural law. That, the nature doesn't worry about tomorrow. There's a hurricane now. So be smart. Live day by day. The Bible teaches this. That's how you have peace, to not worry about the future. Live for today.
Tomorrow will take care of itself.
Yes. And so that's 5 minutes left, I guess.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Okay. So
it's been a good show.
It's
been good. I think you covered it all. I think, I will speak on singles real quick. If you're single and watching this, pray for your spouse now. I gave Darren a prayer journal for our first year anniversary of prayers that I had been praying, and I didn't know the stuff Darren was going through. Of course I do now at the time, and those prayers were God knew who my spouse was going to be, and so I was praying for Darren before I even knew him. And so if you're single right now, I don't know if God's placed it on your heart to get married, but first I'm going to encourage you to just enjoy being alone with God, to serve for Him, to love for Him, but pray for the people and the future relationships in your life, because God knows who they are.
Well, and even more importantly, to to, like I said, we don't know what's best for us.
Yeah.
You know, you can have cancer and you don't even necessarily know that to not have cancer is better for you.
Yeah.
For all you know, having cancer is what woke you up to stop doing wrong, stop doing the life you were doing, and to be on the right track and to put good in the world. You know, it could be the cancer that did that. So we don't even know. We do not know what to ask for. And that, you know, when you do that prayer and realize everything you think is just can't be true, it can't be because you don't know everything. To also know that you don't even know what to pray for.
Yeah.
You don't know what to ask. You don't. You know, sometimes we ask for money. One of the obvious things. Well, how many times has the lottery killed people? The lottery has killed a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's ruined marriages. It's decimated families, and the money's just gone within 2 years. Well, so do you ask for money? Well, money may be the worst thing for you. Do you ask for someone, you know, a partner? Well, a partner could be the worst thing for you.
Yeah.
So if you're single and your heart's aching for a girlfriend, a boyfriend, or a husband, wife, that might be the worst thing for you. So keep in mind to don't worry about that. Don't seek first the kingdom.
Yeah.
As you know, if you're a Christian, we know that. We know that. We never do it. We say it all the time, and then we seek first that paycheck. Or we seek first some extramarital thing. Or we seek first, if you're single, we seek for, I can't move forward in life if I don't have a girlfriend affirming
don't make
me.
it your God, that's for sure. Don't do that.
So if you're in that state where you are praying for a husband or a wife, that's fine, but realize that you have to see God as the target, you know, and if it's like if it's on a dartboard, you know, God is the center, and all the rings around are given to you if you hit the target. So aim for the target.
Yes.
And then if you're meant for a wife, not only will you get a wife, you'll get the perfect wife for you. And if you're meant to have boatloads of wealth, you know, like Jesus had all these mansions. Like, he had so much beachfront property as the Son of God. Oh wait, no, he was poor. He had nothing. All he had was God and the sandals on his feet, which were eventually taken from him also. All he had was his body, which was eventually taken from him also. Don't pray for anything. Only seek first the kingdom. And then you'll be given things that you didn't even know that you probably should have prayed for. They're so amazing.
Yeah.
Well,
and then he starts to place those desires when we are seeking first the kingdom of God. He'll remove desires that weren't from him, or he'll give you a guidance for those desires, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's like even those desires you can't control. You just want you see those as a blessing. I mean, that's your cross to bear. You know.
Always submit them.
Yeah, whatever it is. If you're if you're born with one leg and you know all you wanted was 2 legs, then that's your cross to bear, and you could turn into something beautiful. And those are the kind of people we always see that lesson from most apparently. It's those that are in the wheelchairs that go and produce crazy things, that they go out and they realize that being in a wheelchair isn't going to stop them.
Yeah.
The same way having both legs shouldn't have stopped them from before they built the company they built.
Yeah.
Or spread the good that they spread. It's, you know, everything that's pulling you down, you have to see even the bad as a blessing from God. It's something that you can use to overcome. Yeah. And for men, you need to overcome your emotion. Yeah. You need to overcome being afraid of being a man. Yeah. And a lot of it is fear. I know it. Overcome that. Yeah. And you'll be in a whole new world afterward. And it'll be amazing. Yeah.
Well, we should go ahead and sign off so that way we don't get anybody's airtime. I don't know whose show is after us, but we're so glad that you guys joined us today, and we'll be back next week.
Yeah, hopefully you can hear us and we're not doing a dubbed film again. I didn't actually. What should we talk about next week? What should we look forward to?
I don't know.
Surprise?
Yeah, I guess a surprise we hadn't really.
Yeah, I guess starting from now on, like I really wanted to go through what the man should do, what the woman should do, and then after that we can kind of get into kind of everyday, common marriage problems or blessings and how to handle them. So I guess that'll be next. Yeah. Sounds good. We'll just start the if we do this together part. All right. I'm not going to break it by trying to.
Bye, y'all.